Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another fantastic episode of Falcor's Mighty Adventures. Well, actually now I'm calling it Tales of Falcor, but it's basically Falcor's Mighty Adventures. Having a pretty good day today. I advanced a little bit in the game, sorry, but I don't think it matters, really. You can just download, the game on Steam and play it yourself. Plus, I realize many of the people that watch Tales of Falcor don't really care about the game. Although, I know two of you really care about the game. So, Mr. Carl Young and Mr. Developer from this game. Because, yeah, one of my subscribers is a developer, no big deal. I know you guys care, so, yeah, good for you. Anyway, moving on. Last time I talked about making my first friends ever in the world, in Belgium, in a place called BEPS, British English Private School. I don't think people realize how prestigious that place was. It was really expensive. My family had to make a lot of sacrifices to get me in there, but it was totally worth it because I really got like a Hogwarts level education there. I shit you not. That place was like Hogwarts. I feel like it was kind of like Hogwarts. The place was divided in my brain into two parts. You had the playground, which is my favorite place, and you had what I called the castle. Now, it wasn't really a castle. It was very likely it was just a very, very big old mansion. Belgium is a very old country, so we're talking, I don't know, hundreds of years old mansion. Which I guess BEPS bought, and they use it as a school facilities. And this place, I'm talking like whenever you were at BEPS, they really convinced you that you were in the UK. Everyone that you met had a British accent. Everyone. I think they only hired one American teacher, and he was really cool. But everybody else spoke in a British accent, and I think the only people that weren't British necessarily were the servants and the cleaners and people that took care of the place. Those weren't necessarily English, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. So we're talking huge spiral staircase, red carpet, antiques everywhere. Very clean, but like with this old wood smell. Very, very cozy, very warm area. Fireplaces. The classrooms had antique desks. There wasn't a school uniform. Yeah, there wasn't a school uniform, but you had to go in dressed pretty like sharply, otherwise they'll look down upon you. Where are we supposed to go? Here. There we go. Very, very kind, very happy place. The teaching was excellent. The people were very nice, usually from very wealthy backgrounds, but not necessarily. Many of them were diplomats who, for those of you who don't know, in most countries, the country itself, so the government pays for your children's education if you're a diplomat in a foreign country. Otherwise, it's like, okay, we send you here, and then like you have to pay for everything. Like even if you've got a good, salary, it's still very expensive to, take your family and rent an apartment and everything. But that's beside the point. Thing is, I saw this castle area. And I thought this place for sure has secret areas and secret passages. And in fact, it did. Problem was, I was too stupid to find them. Like looking back, I realized why. There were sort of forbidden zones where you weren't allowed to go if you were a student. They were reserved for either the servants, let's just call them the staff, because I don't want to be flagged as a goddamn racist episode here, but let's just say they were the staff. They were the staff. The staff were allowed to use staff quarters and staff stairs and staff hallways and staff quarters and all that. And the kids weren't allowed to go there. Teachers were allowed to go everywhere. The offices were strictly prohibited to everyone except teachers. Public areas like libraries, you had to be accompanied by a teacher. So of course, I mean, it's a school. You can't leave the kids all alone by themselves. So naturally, like, I thought, we could find secret passages everywhere. I looked in the libraries. Sometimes I tried looking in the servants' areas because, they were forbidden. You weren't allowed to go there. So I thought, obviously, that's where the secret passages are. But I couldn't find any of them. But I do remember many teachers, like, grabbing me from not the neck, but like the back of my t-shirt or shirt, and pulling me back and saying, no, you're not allowed to go there. And that just fueled my curiosity even more. But I never found a secret passage, and I'm glad I didn't, because, well, no, I mean, not glad, but like, I'm not surprised that I didn't, because they're called secret passages for a reason. I'm pretty sure these passages were only found in the office areas, and maybe some of the hallways that the kids weren't allowed to go to. I thought there was going to be one in the library. I didn't find it. So yeah, that was the castle. Very, very nice place. There was a tower. In fact, I have a story. Really quickly, I'll tell you about the tower. Once in second grade... No, this wasn't second grade. This was third grade. Wait. No, it wasn't third grade. It was second or fourth grade. Just so you know, Bebs starts school before... I think that's a UK thing or a Belgian thing, but like, if you start, let's say, preschool at 4, it's 2 years earlier, so Bebs would start at 2. Now, of course, I don't know what age people start going to preschool, but it's always 2 years earlier. So second grade would be still preschool. Fourth grade would be second grade for everyone else. But back then it was fourth grade. I don't know why it was like that. Ask the English. I have no idea. But point is, I was in fourth grade, which was actually second grade in the rest of the world. And first day of class, new teacher, everything, new classmates, because they had changed me. There were four divisions, which was red, yellow, blue, and green. They changed me to yellow, so I had new classmates. And I was just sitting there on my desk all alone, and there are teachers like, okay, kids, since it's the first day, I'd like you all to write a paragraph about who you are and where you're from and what your favorite things are in the world. Pretty standard request, right? And I'm like, this is going to be easy, no problem, I can do this. I'm not stupid. They give me the paper, they give me a pencil, and I look down at the paper, and I'm like, oh crap, I just forgot. I don't know how to write. Yeah, actually I knew how to write, I knew how to read, but I'd never been asked to write anything more than a sentence or a few names. I could write down words, I could spell words for you, no problem, but no one ever asked me to write a paragraph. And I saw all these kids, freaking geniuses around me, writing a paragraph, and especially the girls. I think the guys were just fooling around, but the girls were already writing down a goddamn essay, and I was there sitting like an idiot, staring at the blank paper. And then Dorothy, the freaking snitch of the class, a goody two-shoes girl, was like, "Oh, excuse me, Miss Claudia, Lewis isn't writing down anything." And I'm like, "Shut your goddamn pie hole, Dorothy. None of your goddamn business." But she thought it was a good idea to tell on me. And sure enough, Miss Claudia comes over, and she's like, "What you doing there, pal?" And I'm like, I'm taking my time." And she's like, "Well, tick-tock, mate. you gotta write this down pretty quick." And I'm like, "I don't know how to do this. I'm sorry, Miss Claudia. I'm too stupid for this." And she's like, what do you mean you can't write a paragraph about your life and your favorite things and you know, where you're from? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to start. I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, you can write, can't you? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, then write. And I'm like, it's easy for you to say, but I don't know how to do this. I'm sorry. And she's like, that's it. You're going to the tower. And she took me to a goddamn tower, which was in an area, a forbidden zone. We weren't allowed to go there. I realized why, because the tower was there. Now, what's the tower? If you're imagining a prison, it's kind of like prison. It's sort of like a timeout zone. Apparently, this teacher didn't believe me. She thought I was fooling around, trying to get out of some work and just playing around. But I literally didn't know how to write a paragraph about my life. So she took me to the tower, and she's like, until you write this goddamn paragraph down, you're not leaving for lunch. You're not leaving for anything. You're going to stay here, and you're going to be in so much trouble if you don't finish this goddamn paragraph. And I didn't cry, because I wasn't a crybaby back then. But I was like, damn, like there's no way I'm going to write this paragraph. I don't know how to do it. And none of the teachers, like Miss Claudia, didn't want to teach me because she didn't believe me. Luckily, I wasn't trapped in the tower by myself. There was an Indian girl there. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. Indians are the best. They're just the greatest. Best religion, best land, best people, you know, best language, because Indians have many languages, but their English is the best. It's like an Indianized English. One of my favorite words in the world, proudy is an Indian word. It's technically not part of the English language, but they invented that word. It's someone that's like very proud, you know, acting proud. He's a proudy person. Point is, there was an Indian girl there, and I don't remember her name because it's the only time I ever saw her. But she was in there for doing for indecent behavior too, for, you know, doing something. She never told me what. Point is, she had to write this. She had to like finish a whole bunch of like mathematical questions. There was this book on math next to her full of exercises, and she had to just do them all. And she never, you know, I never found out if she got into trouble for math or I don't know why, but point is, she was there with me, and I started, you know, joking around again. That's what I do, you know, whenever I feel like sort of under pressure, or whenever I feel like I can't do something, I sort of mask my guilt by being an idiot, basically, and acting like a fool. So I was being an idiot there too, and I started talking to her, and I'm distracting her from her work, but she starts laughing like crazy. She loved all of my jokes. Everything I said. I opened my mouth and she started laughing like a crazy person, like full on maniacal laughter. And I won her over, and she eventually asks, why are you here in the tower? And I tell her I can't do this thing that they asked me to do. And she's like, what is it? And I'm like, I have to write a paragraph on, which I didn't even know what a paragraph was back then. I have to write a paragraph on what my name is, where I'm from, and what my favorite thing is. But I have to write a whole paragraph. And she's like, what is the problem then? Can you write? And I'm like, yeah, I can write. And she's like, okay, write your name. And I write my name. And she's like, no, write it on the top right-hand side. No, top left-hand side of the paper. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And I write it down. And she's like, okay, very good. Now, tell me, what is your name? And I'm like, Mr. Farkas. And she's like, okay, yes, but how do you say it? And I said, my name is Mr. Farkas. And she's like, okay, write it down. And I'm like, okay. She's like, my name, and I'm like, yeah, okay, is, yes, okay, Mr. Farkas. And I'm like, okay, I did it. She's like, very good, very good. And where are you from? And I'm like, well, I'm from 2 countries. And she's like, write it down. Write both countries now. I am, and I'm like, okay, I am from And I wrote down everything. And I wrote down my dad's from here and my mom's from there. And she's like, very good, very good, very good. And I kept just listening to her. And eventually she's like, okay, I want you to do the rest by yourself. And I did. I did it all by myself. and I did the whole paragraph. She's like, okay, that's enough. You don't have to write anymore. And I was so happy that I forgot to tell the teacher. I just stayed there with my Indian friend. And, we would joke around. And I have a feeling, looking back, I think what had happened was she wasn't there because of being a bad student, like maybe me, because I didn't know how to write the paragraph. I think she was having anxiety issues or issues with her classmates, because the way she laughed at the things that I said just makes me realize now that she probably had, issues with other people, and she helped me do my work as a thank you. Like, she really wanted me to do well. And although she was older than me, she was maybe 2 years older than me, I felt like she was this really wise girl. And the teacher came back all pissed off and was like, Mr. Farkas, did you do your work or not? And I'm like, check this out, Miss Claudia. And I showed her the paragraph, and she looks at it and she's like, okay, very good, you can come back. And I never saw the Indian kid again. Never even in the campus. I have no idea. She just disappeared. But she helped me write. And after that, I absolutely nailed all my writing assignments. I realized all I had to do was write down whatever I wanted to say. Pretty stupid thing, but it happened. And we're already halfway through. Jesus Christ. The thing is, I just remember so much from that school. I remember falling in love for the first time with this girl called Amelia. I actually know her second name too, but I don't want to say it because I don't want her to get into trouble. Amelia was the hottest chick in the class. She was from Greece, and half Greek, half Belgian, I think. I absolutely adored her, but I learned pretty quickly that just being nice to a girl isn't enough. You gotta like show character, and I was being really nice to her, but I wasn't showing character. And pretty soon she fell in love with someone else. With this guy called Bart, the class clown. I was already a clown. This guy was a complete clown. Like, he was really cool though. Bart was a cool guy. He was just an idiot sometimes. So I remember that. I remember meeting the smartest girl I've ever met in my life. It was actually a girl I met in 3rd grade called Heidi. Now, I thought Heidi was a goody two-shoes, know-it-all, and just she knew everything that the teachers asked her just because she wanted to be the best. I'd make fun of her all the time, like, oh, you're such a goody two-shoes, and Heidi would be like, yes, I suppose I am. And I'd make so much fun of her, and then because she would do things like she'd be reading in class, and the teachers would allow it, and I was like, why are you reading in class? Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. And she's like, I just like reading. And since she was doing all her homework and she answered every question perfectly in class, none of the teachers ever gave her any crap for reading or for, being distracted in class. And I thought that was just the stupidest thing. It's not fair. That's why I kind of hated her. And then she invited me to her birthday, which was at her house. And it was a really nice birthday party, very, very posh, very, very classy. And I remember she would talk to the adults. She wouldn't talk to the kids. She would come from time to talk to us, and we were her age. And I'm like, do you have any fun that we could do here? And she's like, well, I mean, I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't have many toys. And I'm like, okay, show me your room. And she takes me to her room. And it was just covered in books and in bookshelves. She was a genius, and she was very pretty too. And I'm like, you have no toys? And she's like, yeah, I do. And she takes me to the shelf, and there were 3 antique wooden, like, replicas of very old cars, like 50s cars. They weren't made to be played with. Those were just ornamental pieces. And she's like, there, I've got 3 toys for you. And I'm like, I think that's when I realized that this girl wasn't just a goody two-shoes smartass trying to act cool. I was looking at a very, very unique, powerful human being, and I never made fun of her ever again. In fact, I treated her like she was some kind of goddess. Like, to me, like she was like an advanced spiritual human being. And I have no idea what happened to her. I really hope that like she didn't get anxiety issues, because I do remember her one day, she did break down in the middle of class, crying like crazy, and I never understood why, but I think it had to do with like self-esteem issues. Even though I don't understand why, because she was perfect. Like, she was very pretty. She had not many, but she had friends. She wasn't socially awkward or anything like that. But she I guess she broke down at some point. So I really hope she didn't end up having self-esteem issues, because really the sky's the limit for a person like that. I revered her after that day, when I realized that she's not just acting cool. She is just a wonderful human being. Other people I met there, much more funnier people. Like, there was this kid called Robin, who was, his only life goal ever was magic. He wanted to be a magician. And Robin wouldn't pay attention in class. He would come up with his own magic routines. Everything, his world revolved around magic. And I really hope he became a magician, because that guy had a talent. He would get into out of trouble easily. He would sweet talk all the teachers. He would fake injuries. He would use all kinds of tricks just to manipulate people in a good way, not a bad way. So that was Robin. Robin and I actually became really good friends until in the playground I told him to jump off of one of the houses, like a structure that we had in the playground. I was like, yeah, all the cool kids are doing it. And he jumped off and broke his arm. It's not funny at all. But I don't know, I laugh in awkward moments. But yeah, he jumped off and broke his arm, and he never talked to me again. Thing is, all the cool kids really were jumping off. I don't know why he broke his arm. I don't know how he fell. But that playground was actually pretty dangerous, at first at least. It was basically divided into 2 parts. There was the sand area, which was this huge area of sand, of course contained. There was no sand outside of that area. It was cleaned perfectly. And within that sand area, there were these structures, which were like climbing structures, a slide, and things like that. And that place also had, imagine this huge net. Imagine like a room, a big room, a very big room, which was like 4 columns connected by 4, I don't know, sticks, big sticks. And then they held a huge net with very thick rope. And the idea was that you could climb. You grab the thing and you climbed around the net. Very good exercise for a kid, who's still developing his muscles and things like that. Problem was, the cool kids would learn how to get on top of the net, and they would just chillax on top of the net, just laying like this. And the holes were, imagine this was the hole, like this size, a bit, like that was the grid. So what would happen if these kids would like hang out there, all the cool kids, and all the peasants would remain, below the net. And something terrible happened. A girl got on top of the net, and I don't know how, don't ask me why, but she sort of fell into one of the holes in the grid, and by some striking of bad luck, she fell with her neck getting tied in the net, and she actually nearly hanged herself, and it was a very serious thing. She got out of it alive. I think she just ended up falling, but for like a good, I don't know, 10 seconds, she was hanging there by the neck and she couldn't get out. So they removed the net, and people just ended up climbing the sticks, the things that held the pole back there. So yeah, that was a pretty dangerous thing. There was also a forest area, which was like a hill. Imagine trees growing on a hill like this. That was pretty cool. That's where we hanged out with Matt and Mutalabukwa, and sometimes his brother Indianabu. That was his name, Indianabu. Pretty cool. Really, really full of memories. I remember I had, do I have time for this? I don't know. I had the most epic snowball fight of my life there. Actually, in the middle of the snowball fight, this was a playground-wide snowball fight. Imagine the whole playground, so hundreds of kids at the same time during lunch break, so it was like an hour long. But I started that fight. Someone threw a sand ball at me, and you shouldn't throw sand balls, that's illegal. And I thought it was this kid called Martin, so I stuffed his face with snow, but Martin wasn't the guy. I'm gonna stop here. Wasn't the guy who threw the snowball, so he started throwing snowballs at me. It escalated, then the whole playground was fighting. My friends and I stayed in the forest throwing snowballs, but at some point we ran out of ammo. There was no more snow, so we said we're gonna have to charge and beat the kids up hand to hand. So we're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, charge. But the problem was I fell in the middle of the charge, and I fell into this ditch that divided the sand from the forest. It's this very big. It's kind of like a trench. Imagine a trench during World War I. I fell head first in there, hit my head, and passed out. And I woke up in the principal's office with a huge bump in my head, and I was bleeding. And they were like, "I'm going to call your parents, but you're always a troublemaker." And I'm like, "God damn it! Like, I didn't do it on purpose. I was trying to attack." Okay. And I remember there was the husband of the principal, who was a woman. The husband was there, and he's like, "Why didn't you just put your hands forward?" And I'm like, I look at him, bleeding, practically like covered in snow, all wet, head full of mud, face full of mud and blood, and I'm like, "Do you think I'm stupid? Like, if I would have known, I would have put my hands out. I fell." I fell head forward. And yeah, that was Beps. I really felt like I was in the UK there. I met some amazing people, made some really good friends, but eventually I had to go. And I don't remember saying goodbye to any of my friends, but we had to go to Argentina after that, which is the next Friday's video, things I learned in Argentina. But Beps really sort of, I owe a lot of my character to those years in Beps, so I'm just really thankful. And I keep in touch with Matt, but I don't keep in touch with anybody else. I wrote Emilia like 5 or 10 years ago. I wrote to her. She responded, but it never really amounted to anything. So anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Love you.